and welcome back. My name is Lixie, and if you're new here, I typically make videos about books. But today we're gonna switch things up a little and we're going to dive into reflecting about life. In a couple months, I'm going to be turning 30, and I thought, why not share my journey as I prepare to turn 30? Because most people say that turning 30 is a huge milestone. People say that you're basically stepping into a whole new version of yourself. And I do believe that. However, a lot of people also believe that when you turn 30, life is over because you're old and you can't achieve things, and whatever you didn't achieve in your 20s, well, too bad because that was it. Well, no. I think that is very, very wrong. The last couple of months, I've been reflecting on what it means for me to turn 30. I've been trying to figure out how I feel about it, and I have to say that I've had my highs and my lows with that. I have been slowly making peace with it because at first I have to admit that I was in a whole existential crisis, and I still am here and there sometimes depending in what mindset I am. But the closer I get to my 30s, I feel like the more excited I feel. Obviously, I have been talking to people that are already in their 30s, because how best to prepare for turning 30 than by speaking to people that are already 30 or well into their 30s. And the responses that I've had have been, for the most part, pretty positive. I've been in a crisis about turning 30 since I was around 26 or 27, and I realized that I was closer to my 30s than I was to my 20s. It felt really weird. I did feel super old, and I feel like that thought kind of stuck with me, even though I knew that was not the reality. I especially struggle with the fact that as I approach my 30s, my life looks nothing like what I thought would look like when I was this age. And so that's been a huge frustration that I've been struggling with, something that has put me in a mind space where I've thought that I've been failing at life. But now that I've been doing some introspection, I've been reflecting on it, I've realized that that's not true. That is not the reality of things. One of my biggest takeaways from all of this introspection that I've done and looking back at my 20s is that your 20s are an opportunity for you to learn how to be an adult. You're freshly out of high school, freshly out of your teens, and you're only now experiencing the world as a whole. And it is unrealistic for one to expect to have everything figured out like we've been taught to do. We are making decisions based on a limited amount of information and a limited amount of experiences. The experiences that someone in their early 20s will have is very unlikely to be the experiences that a person in their late 20s will have. However, that is not always the case because it all depends on our starting point. It depends on the access to resources that we have. It depends on the lifestyle that we've been provided by our caregivers. And it obviously depends on the environments that we've been growing up in and the environments that we've been put into. So there's a lot of stuff that determines the experiences that one person is going to have versus another one. But if we're thinking about it in terms of how much time we've been alive, then definitely a person in their late 20s is going to have a very different mindset because they've had the opportunity and the time to have gone through more things than someone in their early 20s. Now, taking into consideration those things, let's say two people had the exact same access to information, the exact same resources, and the exact same knowledge or mindset to approach a situation or even approach just life in general in their 20s. Even those two people are not going to have the same outcomes because people are different and people are going to act differently and they're going to have different outcomes. And just because something didn't work out for one person doesn't mean it's not gonna work out for the other one, and vice versa. Things might work out for one person and they might not work out for the other. You know, that's just life. Life has so many little nuances and variations and things that impact one's outcomes that no two people are going to have the same outcomes in anything. Very similar outcomes maybe, but not the exact same, and they're not gonna feel the exact same way about the outcomes that they get because people have different expectations of their life and how things should look like. So obviously it is super unrealistic for us to be comparing ourselves to other people because we're not gonna have the same experiences, the same knowledge, the same abilities, the same inclinations, the same time to do the things that they do. And so don't compare yourself. And most importantly, don't think that you are a failure because you are not, just because you are not in the same place or have access to the same things that someone else does. Now, let me give you a little bit of a backstory. I'm not gonna get too much into detail of what my life has been because I feel like I've already done that in other videos, and also I might be able to do it more in depth if that's something that you guys want to know about. But quick overview. I spent most of my 20s as a student. I went to undergrad, I switched majors, which people always think that is the worst thing in the world. But if you ask me, undergrad is one of the best places to explore things, to try new things, to figure out what you like and what you don't like. I switched majors, then I added a minor degree, and it was a whole thing. And then I went into grad school because I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to finish a PhD earlier in life and not be in my 30s in school and yada yada yada. What ended up happening? Life had other plans, and I ended up having to step away from my PhD, so I ended up leaving school with a master's, which is still a great milestone, obviously. But it wasn't where I thought I would be. It wasn't what I thought I would achieve. You know, it wasn't what I thought I would be achieving. And so that took an emotional toll on me, a very bad emotional toll on me. I was already struggling emotionally and mentally. That was the cherry on top. And so I left school for my own well-being just to end up in a job that caused even more problems for me. Am I grateful for the job? Yes. Did I learn a lot there? Yes, because any experience that you get, any opportunity that you get, you're going to learn something, and it's important to embrace that. But I can't say I had the best time. Now that I am away from that and I am closer to turning 30 and my world feels like it was put upside down, at first it was a devastating feeling. It felt like I was doomed. I had this really deep pain inside of me and this frustration because I felt like, why am I at the end of my 20s when I should have accomplished this and this and this and this and this, and all these people around me have accomplished all of these things? Why haven't I been able to do that? And why do I feel that I have to be starting over again? It is a very disheartening feeling. It was very difficult for me to come into terms with that. I cried a lot. I struggled a lot. I had to do a lot of journaling because that's one of the ways that I manage my emotions and the things that go on in my life. But ultimately, I had a big realization, and I understood that in my 20s, I was able to have my highest highs and my lowest lows. I met amazing people. I experienced new things. I traveled. I felt like my world was collapsing, not just this time, but in other times previously. I felt all of the things that you can possibly feel. And if you ask me now, all of those things were more meaningful to me, more important, and I feel them to be more necessary than if I had achieved the things that I had set out for myself and I had become very successful and had all this money and bought all these things. I think that I needed to go through all those struggles in my 20s so that now I could feel more grateful for where I am and I can feel better about where I am. And like I said, yes, it is so frustrating to not be where I wanted to be, but as I grow older and as I get new perspectives, I realize that where I am, even though it's not technically my definition of success, it is still a success. I think that I feel more prepared now to pursue the things that I wanted to pursue back in my early 20s and mid 20s than I was back then. The person that I was back then was not the person that could take on the challenges and the work that it would take for me to achieve the things that I want to achieve now. And is that a bad thing about me? No, because like I said, we're all different. We grow at different paces. We learn at different stages in our lives. And just because someone else had the strength and the knowledge and the resources to do something earlier than me doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me, and it certainly doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. On the contrary, we are in our own path. And it sounds so insane to say that, or I guess to hear it, because a lot of people see that comment as it being like a consolation comment. But it's not. It is the reality. We have different timelines. We have different paths. And each of us struggle in different ways. We face different challenges, and those challenges all impact not only the person that we're becoming, but the speed to which we can achieve things. And some challenges, if you ask me, are meant to teach us something that is going to be the lesson that is going to take us onto the next step. And if we don't learn the one lesson, life is going to make sure we learn the lesson. And I had to accept that. because there were a lot of things that I was trying to skip, and I realized that life said to me, you're not skipping this. Until you learn this, you're not gonna be able to achieve that thing that you want. Now that I've realized that my definition of success when I was in my 20s is not the same definition of success now, and certainly getting all the material things is not the end goal that I thought it would be, then what is the actual goal? The answer to what the actual goal is gonna vary from person to person. What I think is the end goal is not gonna be what you think is the end goal, and that is the beauty of it. Each person has a different definition of success and has a different goal in mind. And it can be anything, because no one can tell you that is not your goal. Do I believe that material stuff are not the end goal? Yes. But do I still have goals that include things that are material? Of course, because money and resources are add-ons to our life, but are also necessary things that we need to survive as humans. So we cannot dismiss the fact that money and resources are important, because they are. The problem is when they absorbed our lives completely and we lose sight of other things that are also as important or even more important. Our relationships, our well-being, our health, our mental health especially, because I feel like our mental health controls a lot of other aspects. And there's just so much that could be defined as success. And yes, I could sit here and go on and on and on and tell you about all the goals and the things that I define as success that are within my career and my lifestyle and the experiences that I want to have. But as I grow older and as I experience new things and as I achieve things, I realize one thing. The one thing that I want to achieve that takes precedence over all the other goals that I have is one simple thing. I want peace. One of the biggest struggles that I've had throughout my life is falling into environments that have been toxic and being surrounded by people whose energies deplete mine. I am someone that, unfortunately, as I struggle with my mental health, my physical health pays the price. And if I am sick, I cannot work towards goals, I cannot move forward, I cannot live life. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that is sick and tired of being in survival mode. A lot of us have been in survival mode for a really long time, and we don't even remember what it feels like to not be in survival mode. And understanding that peace is the one thing that is going to allow me to achieve everything else, I think that has turned it into my north. That is the one thing that is driving my decisions and is driving the plans that I make in order for me to achieve wellness and to achieve a space where mentally and physically I am prepared and have the energy and the capabilities to achieve all the other things that I want to achieve. I think a lot of the driving forces for us to feel this way have to do with external things. People pleasing, being fearful of disappointing the people that we love, feeling the pressure of becoming a certain type of person, and more importantly, doubting ourselves and doubting the things that we can actually achieve. We often overlook our potential, even if other people see it and even if other people tell us that we have it. And if we don't see that potential in ourselves, if we don't believe that we can achieve those things, then we won't. No matter what we do, we won't, because the main thing that's going to drive us forward is that confidence and that disposition for us to take action and keep on going and be resilient in the face of challenges, and for us to keep on moving towards the things that we want. We need to stop giving other people the power to control what we do. Yes, there are aspects in life that are going to influence what we can and can't do, because obviously there are a lot of external forces that influence. It's inevitable. But I think that we have to stay strong in what it is that we want to achieve. I think that there's a lot of external pressures that drive us to seek that external validation. And that comes, of course, from that doubting ourselves and feeling like if other people are not in agreement with what we want to do, then we shouldn't even be doing it, because it's better or feels better to pursue what other people think it is that we want to do. And that is one of the main things that I feel like I need to leave behind in my 30s, because doing that up to right now, and not just in my 20s but also in my teens, following that expectation, following that small hit of dopamine of getting praised by doing this and that, and by people thinking that I was so good in school and so good at this and this other thing. When in reality, those were not things that were fulfilling me on a deep level. They were just fulfilling my ego. They were just filling a cup that had holes in it, because it wasn't who I was authentically. It was what I thought I needed to be in order to survive in a world that if it's not pushing you up, it's pulling you down. And I understood that I had to stand my own ground. I had to stop caring about disappointing people and caring more about disappointing myself, because I think that the biggest pain, or one of the biggest pains that we can feel, is not being content with ourselves. It's not being our authentic selves and fulfilling what we think is the right path, because no one knows better than ourselves. People can think they know better and they may have the best intentions, but they're not inside our heads. They don't know what is right for us, only we do. And we need to give ourselves the space to figure out what that right thing for us is. My 30s, and I hope yours too, are going to be about rediscovering ourselves. Who are we? Yes, we are quote unquote starting over, but that's the beauty of life. Life will always give us new chances for us to rebuild, for us to restart, for us to take a new path. And that is what I want to do now, and what I hope you do as well. Many people have been telling me for a long time that your 30s are the decade that you stop giving a fuck, and that you leave behind that need to impress other people and to do what everyone else is doing. People tell me that that's where the real power lies, because once you're able to let go of those chains of society and you step into your truest self, that's when things start falling into place. Obviously, I'm not expecting my 30s to be like a switch, that I just flip it and immediately I become this new version of myself that doesn't care about what anyone has to say, and I'm just completely and absolutely different. I am determined to step into my 30s with the mindset that will enable me to become that version of myself that I want to be. I think that as long as I have the right mindset, I can push myself in the right direction, and that will allow me to become a better version of myself and be the authentic version of myself that I know has always been within me. How will I achieve that, and how do I recommend you to achieve that as well? Well, I have 6 things that I was able to think about, but of course the list is probably way longer. And let me know in the comments after I go through the list, what other things do you think that are good ways for us to step into that version of ourselves? Even if you're not turning 30, you might be turning 25, you might be turning 20, you might be turning 50. Who cares? Whatever age you're turning, if you have these same feelings that I have, and you have the determination and the fearlessness to pursue this new decade or this new age as a different version of you, let me know what things you think that will help you out do that. So quickly, let's go through my list. Number 1 is taking risk, even if it's scary. One of the biggest things that got in the way of me achieving things in my 20s was the fear of taking risks, because I didn't know what the outcomes would be, and that uncertainty made me feel uncomfortable. And feeling discomfort is part of stepping into the truest version of yourself and into building the lifestyle that you want to live. So not taking risk was one of the biggest obstacles that I created for myself, and I think that stepping into 30, I need to start taking action and taking those risks and forgetting about the fear and the uncomfortable feelings that it gives me. Number 2 is pushing through the judgment. Do the things that you want to do, even if it feels ridiculous, even if you're embarrassed. Do it, because people are always gonna have something to say. And 9 times out of 10, and as cliche as this sounds, people are going to be judging you as a reflection of the things that they hate about themselves. People criticize the things that are different, the things that they can't understand, and most especially the things that remind them of what they are not doing. People feel threatened by people who are doing. Even if it's not perfect, they're going to criticize the fact that it's not perfect, and it's never going to be perfect. But they're going to criticize it, and they're going to find flaws because they're scared and they're angry with themselves that they're not in your position. They are not doing the things that you are daring to do. So even if people judge you and they say that whatever it is that you're doing is wrong, As long as you're not harming anyone else, it's not wrong. It's what you feel is authentic to you, and that's what you should be doing. Number 3, and this is a big one, turning dreams into plans and getting rid of the one day I will mindset. I have been in a one day I will mindset my entire 20s. Every decision that I've made, although it hasn't necessarily been a bad decision, I noticed that I was too much in my comfort zone and I was making decisions letting life drive me, which is not necessarily a bad thing. You can let life throw the opportunities at you. But what I didn't do was sit down and think, are those the things that I want to be doing? Now, do I regret the decisions that I made? No. And I'm gonna tell you why. In my 20s, I had a moment that I decided that one of the biggest things that I wanted to drive my life was becoming a yes person. Have I done the best job at becoming a yes person? No. And where did I get this from? Yes, I got it from the movie Yes Men. I recommend watching it because although it is a comedy, it has a lot of very important lessons. And I think when I watched that movie, it made a shift in my mindset because I realized that I had been in fear for a long time. The problem was that, well, not the problem. What ended up happening at that time was that I was saying yes to the things that would come to me, but I wasn't searching for the things that I wanted, and I wasn't saying yes to myself. I was saying yes to external things. And I think that at the time, that's what I needed to do. That's what I needed to have as my mindset in order for me to become the person that I am now. So I had the stage of being a yes person to external opportunities, and that served its purpose, and it was a good thing. I had a good run discovering what life had to offer because I became a yes person. But like I said, I wasn't always a yes person, and I know that I could have said yes to a lot more things. And I would have experienced more if I had done that. But regardless, the things that I said yes to were things that were very meaningful and taught me a lot and helped me become the person that I am today. So because I already passed the yes version of me, now I am in the maker version of me. Now I'm going to be stepping into the person that creates those opportunities, creates those experiences, and seeks them out. I want to stop thinking that one day I will achieve X, Y, and Z. I want to start working on the plans that I've been making and make new plans that are actionable so that I can actually get to the place where I want to get to. Number 4 is probably one of the most important points and very likely the one that we overlook the most. And yes, this is gonna be very cliche, but it's also going to be a good and important lesson that we need to ingrain in our minds. Resting to improve our productivity. We need to rest, and I'm not just talking about getting your 8 hours at night. I mean getting your time off during the day. I mean sitting down and doing a hobby that you enjoy. I mean stepping away from your work for an hour or two so that you can rest your mind, so that it stops hurting. You need to not let yourself get so many headaches, and I'm telling that to myself because I get a lot of tension headaches because once I zone in and I don't stop, and that is not good for your health and it's not good for your productivity. If we don't step away from the things that we are doing, we can't get a fresh perspective, and if we don't get a fresh perspective, we can't get over challenges and obstacles. Sometimes we're stuck and we're thinking, how am I going to solve this? Well, most likely stepping away from the problem and doing something different is gonna give you the inspiration, the creativity to solve that problem. And even if that's not the case, we need to recharge. The same way that you have to be charging your phone because the battery goes down, the same way we have to do that for ourselves because we don't have an endless supply of energy. We need to take breaks and we need to recharge. Breaks are productive. Let me say that again. Breaks are productive. If we don't take breaks, we will not function. A tired mind and a tired body is not going to be productive. It's not going to produce quality outcomes. We need to be able to disconnect our work from the other aspects of our lives because yes, we can listen to an audiobook while we're doing work. We can watch a series in the background as we're getting things done. We can do all these multitasking, but we're never going to feel rested. And if we step away from the things that we have to do, but we're still thinking about them, we're not really resting. And let me tell you that because I can tell you firsthand that that is the case. I was a PhD student that could not disconnect from being a PhD student. I would see the rest of my cohort going on hiking trips, traveling around the world, doing other projects that didn't have anything to do with school. I would see them go eat together. They would do all of these other activities, and in my head I was like, how do they have time to do that? I'm here struggling every single day because I can't get anything done. And you know why? Because I was tired. I was taking double, triple the time to finish a task that I should have been able to finish at a shorter time, because I wasn't resting. I started my PhD thinking that I was an undergrad, and it started me working 8 hours nonstop and then 12 hours nonstop, because I was so excited to be a PhD student that I wanted to give it my all, and I wanted to do all the things faster than everyone else, and I wanted to set my own records, and I wanted to do all of this impressive work. And what ended up happening? I burned out my first semester, and I pushed through 3 years. That is not the right way to pursue a project. It doesn't have to be school. That is not the way to pursue something that you want to achieve long term. Life is a marathon, it's not a race, and we are not competing with anyone. And we need to remember that we're not competing with anyone, we're only competing with ourselves. And it's not a competition, it's just pushing ourselves to be a better version than who we were the day before. So I learned the hard way that I needed to rest because my mind and my body collapsed. I had to give up my dream entirely, or at least put it in the back burner for a longer time than I would have if I had taken the time to take breaks and I had toned it down, because I was trying to achieve up here when achieving up here was too unrealistic. And of course, that imposter syndrome was very present, forcing me to work so much that I actually wasn't really being productive and I wasn't getting things done. I was just destroying my body and my mind. So yes, resting is productive, and it is vital if you want to achieve anything in life. Number 5 is continue learning and never stop learning. And I don't mean go to school and never finish school, or graduate and then do another degree and another degree and another degree, because school is not the only place where we learn. We learn more, actually, and this is coming from someone that spent a lot of time in school and someone that adores academia. We sometimes learn more from life than actual school. Yes, school gives you a structure and it gives you guides for you to learn certain things in a certain order, but there is so much knowledge out there that you could be pursuing, and knowledge that a classroom cannot give you. Being around the world, exposing yourself to new cultures, traveling, talking to people, listening to their experiences, those are huge ways for you to learn. Even sitting down in your computer and watching a video on YouTube about whatever someone is an expert in. There is so much that we can learn, and the beauty of it is that because we're not necessarily learning from school, we have more control about what it is that we want to learn. There's so many ways to learn, and I think seeking knowledge is gonna be one of the biggest things that are going to drive us forward in life, and are going to continue shaping us, are going to increase our empathy, are going to turn us into a better version of ourselves, and they're going to give us ideas, experiences, and going to improve the skills that we need so that we can go on to the next level and achieve the next thing. So always seek to learn, and especially learn from your challenges, because we learn the most when life gets tough. We don't learn a lot when things are easy and when we're actually achieving things. Number 6, and the last point that I have, be ready to fail, embrace it, learn from it, and let it be the fuel that you need to get on to the next thing. We are so scared of failure. We are told from a very young age that failing is this horrible thing, and if you fail, there's something wrong with you, and you're not gonna recover, and if you fail, that means you shouldn't pursue this thing, and yada yada yada, all this nonsense. But the reality is that we need to be able to get used to the feeling of failure. We need to be comfortable in the discomfort of failure, and we need to learn from that failure. We need to be ready and willing to fail, and fail fast, because the more we fail, the more we learn, the more we build, the more we adapt. Skills get made as we fail and by making mistakes, because that's when we get the idea in our head, maybe I should do this other thing better because this is what happened when I did this thing. So be ready to fail. If you don't fail, that means you're not doing anything. People who fail are the people who dare to take the risk to pursue and take actions for the things that they want. So learn to fail and be okay with it. It's gonna feel bad. It's gonna be painful, but it's gonna be worth it. Now, with all of that said, I don't really know where this decade is gonna take me, and I know there's gonna be challenges, there's gonna be ups and downs, and what I have in my mind right now of what the outcome is gonna be is probably not gonna be what ends up happening. But one thing I know for sure, and that is that I want to take this new decade as a new adventure. I want to look at it from a different perspective, and I want to approach it in a different way that I have been approaching life in the past. I want to treat it with more care. I want to be more gentle with myself and allow myself to just be. But I also want to have more determination and fearlessness. I want to go after things rather than just dream about going after them. I want to act on the things that I know I'm capable of doing rather than just knowing it and then staying stuck. I want to invite you to stick around as I prepare to turn 30. If you're turning 30, awesome, let's prepare together. If you're turning some other age, that's fine too, because who said you have to have these breakthroughs only when you're turning 30 or 25 or 21 or 50 or 45? You can have a shift like this in your life when you are prepared for it. And for me, it just happens to be in a big milestone birthday, a big popular milestone birthday, as it is turning 30. Come on with me, stick around, because I'm going to be making some more videos related to this topic. And once I turn 30, I plan on documenting it. I plan on starting a series where it's kind of a video diary and I take you along with me. So do the same thing in the best way that you want. You don't have to publish it for the whole world to see, but I hope that you keep record of what you're doing, what you're achieving, so that you see the change and you're able to look back and say, wow, I did all of these things in this time that I set for myself. I am going to be, like I said, preparing to turn 30 in the next couple of months, and I'm going to document that. I have all these exciting videos planned out of topics that I want to talk about, lessons from my 20s, perspectives about turning 30, and all of the adventures that I want to take part of as the new decade settles in. So let's do it together. Let's turn whatever age we're turning together, and let's start over, because who said we can't? Let's finally step into the best version of ourselves and get that life that we've been dreaming of. It's time to start acting and not necessarily stay stuck in the dreams, because we're never gonna be younger than what we are today, and no one's gonna come do it for us. We have to go and chase those dreams. So let's go and do that. And in the meantime, I will be planning for the next video, so I'll leave it at that here, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.